French Revolution. When was the Bastille prison stormed? Why was Bastille prison attacked? Bastille prison was stormed by revolutionaries on the morning of 14th July 1789. The Bastille prison was attacked with a hope to find hoarded ammunition for the revolution. Which ruler came to power in France in 1774? Whom did Louis XVI get married to? Louis XVI of Bourbon dynasty came to power in France in 1774. Princess Marie Antoinette of Austria, also called as Madame Deficit. Why was the treasury of France empty when Louis XVI ascended the throne? Long years of war had drained the financial resources of France, and along with it was the cost of maintaining an extravagant court and immense palace of Versailles. Why did the French government increase the taxes? To meet its regular expenses, such as the cost of maintaining an army, the court, running government offices, or universities, the state was forced to increase the taxes. Why did the French government increase? Who formed the first and second estates of French society? The clergy and the nobility were the members of the first and second estate, respectively. What were the views of John Locke in inspiring the people of French Revolution? Locke sought to refute the doctrine of the divine and absolute right of the monarch in his book Two Treatises of Government. What was the immediate cause of French Revolution? Due to bad harvest, the prices of bread rose and often bakers hoarded the bread. The angry women who could not get bread after long hours in the queue stormed into the shops. When was the draft of the National Assembly's constitution completed? What was its main objective? The draft of the constitution was completed in 1791. Its main objective was to limit the powers of the monarch. Who all got the right to vote for National Assembly? Only men about 25 years of age who paid taxes equal to at least 3 days of labor's wage were given the status of active citizen and the right to vote. What was Marseillaise? It was a patriotic song sung by volunteers of Marseilles as they marched into Paris. La Marseillaise is now the national anthem of the France. What were political clubs? Political clubs were formed by people to discuss government policies and plan their own forms of action. Women too formed such clubs. Which new assembly was formed by Jacobians? The Jacobians elected a new assembly which was called Convention. Who were sans clotes? They were the common lower class working people in late 18th century who wore long trousers rather than the knee breeches favored by the aristocracy. They wore red caps to symbolize liberty. Who, which period is known as Reign of Terror in France? Maximilien Robespierre's period is known as Reign of Terror when he followed a policy of severe control and punishment in France. Name the important political clubs formed by women in France to fight for their political rights. The Society of Revolutionary and the Republican Women. When did women finally get the right to vote in France? Women finally got the right to vote in France in 1946. When was slavery finally abolished in French colonies? Slavery was finally abolished in French colonies in 1848. In which famous war was Napoleon Bonaparte defeated? Napoleon was defeated in Battle of Waterloo in 1815. When did France become a republic? The newly elected assembly was called Convention. On 21st September 1792, it abolished the monarchy and declared France as a republic. How did American War of Independence add more debt to France? The French army supported 13 colonies of America in their war of independence against Britain. It added more than 1 billion livres, unit of currency in France, that had risen to more than 2 billion livres with 10% interest on loans, which proposal of the Third Estate was rejected by State General. The Third Estate demanded that voting should be conducted by the Assembly as a whole, in which each member would have one vote, but the King rejected this proposal and therefore members of the Third Estate walked out of the Assembly in protest. Who was Mirabeau? Being born into a noble family, Mirabeau supported the people in French Revolution and encouraged people in numerous ways to participate in the French Revolution. During the formation of the National Assembly, he brought out a journal and gave a powerful and encouraging speech to the crowd at Versailles. Describe the French division of society. The French society was divided into three estates. First estate, it comprised the church and the clergy. They enjoyed certain privileges by birth. They were exempted from paying taxes to the state. Second estate, in the second estate were the nobles and the other rich members. They were also exempted from paying taxes. They also enjoyed feudal privileges. These included feudal dues from the peasants. Third estate, about 90% of the population was peasants. They were obliged to work in the fields of their landlords as well as in their houses and also serve in the army. They were paying all direct taxes like tally, and a number of indirect taxes were also levied on articles of everyday consumption like salt and tobacco. What was the role of the philosophers in the French Revolution? Ideas of having a society based on freedom and equal laws and opportunities for all were put forward by the French philosophers. John Locke. Locke wrote two treatises of government. In this book, he criticized the divine and absolute rights of the monarch rulers. Jean Jacques Rousseau. Rousseau had written his viewpoints in his book, The Social Contact. He had put forward the idea of formation of a government based on a social contact between people and their representatives. Montesquieu. His ideas were proposed in his book, The Spirit of the Laws. According to him, there should be a division of power between the three important organs, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The ideas of these philosophers were discussed by common people in salons and coffee houses and inspired them to fight for their rights. What do you know about the Estate General? The Estate General was a political body to which three estates sent their representatives. In France of old regime, the monarch did not have the power to impose taxes to his will alone. Rather, he had to call a meeting of the Estate General to pass the proposals for new taxes. However, it was the monarch alone who could decide who to call a meeting of this body. State any three impacts of French Revolution in France. Feudalism of France was thrown away by the people. Privileges of church nobles were abolished. Monarchy was abolished and republic was established in France. How did peasants protest against the feudal lords or nobles of France? There were rumors that the landlords of the manor had hired some people to destroy the ripened crops. Being afraid of the situation, peasants in several districts seized hoes and pitchforks and attacked chateau castles belonging to the noblemen. They looted hoarded grain and burned down documents containing records of manorial dues. As a result, a large number of nobles fled from their homes and migrated to the neighboring countries. How was the National Assembly recognized and how did it start exercising its powers? When people revolted, Louis XVI finally gave recognition to the National Assembly and accepted the fact that his powers now would be checked by a constitution. On August 4, 1789, the National Assembly passed a law abolishing the feudal system of obligation and taxes. Members of the clergy too were forced to give up their privileges. Tithes were abolished, and lands owned by the church were confiscated by the government. As a result, the government acquired assets worth 2 billion livres. Differentiate between active and passive citizens. Active citizen, only men above 25 years of age who paid taxes equal to at least 3 days of a laborer's wage were given the status of active citizen and right to vote. Passive citizen, whereas the remaining men as well as all the women of France who were not entitled to vote were called passive citizens.